Hello, vinyl community. Elliot here, Lazy Dogs Records, and there was a request for videos about showing albums of artists they had seen in concert, preferably at the time this album was released, when they were touring in support of. So I remember being, 14, 15, 16 years old, wanting desperately to go see a rock concert, and tried to get my older brother to carry me and a friend of mine to see Todd Rundgren when he played in Raleigh. We were about 14 or 15, and Big Brother said, "Nope, nope, not wasting my Friday or Saturday night carrying my kid brother and his friend to a show." So didn't get to go see that one. I'm sure that would have been an interesting one. But right as we turned 16, my friend David and I went to our first big rock show, and it was at NC State University at Reynolds Coliseum. If I'm not mistaken, the opening act was the Climax Blues Band, and the headliner was Renaissance. Now, we knew nothing about Renaissance, but they were a rock band, and we were 16 years old, and we wanted to go see somebody. This is the album that was out at that time, around 1974, Ashes Are Burning. If I'm not mistaken, some members of this band had previously been in the Fairport Convention, the UK folk rock band. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that. Don't remember much about the concert, but I remember we left before it was over because we had a curfew and we had just turned 16. We certainly didn't want to get our driver's license taken from us because we didn't come in on time. Where I grew up and where I still live is a small town. It's situated in between two small to medium-sized cities, Raleigh, North Carolina, the state capital, and Fayetteville, North Carolina. Fayetteville a little bit smaller and best known as being the home of the largest military base in the world. Sometimes just the U.S. It depends on what the numbers are at different points. Fort Bragg. Well, they had a Cumberland County arena, I guess it was called. Cumberland County Memorial Auditorium is what it was called. And back in the 70s, until that tragic event, I believe it was in Cincinnati at a Who concert, when people were killed because of the rush of the crowd, and they used to have what was called festival seating. All they did was there were no seats on the floor, and you paid for your ticket for festival seating, first come, first serve. You get in there and you set up, as close to the stage as you can get normally for, a teenager. And we went to a lot of shows there. Interesting, this was 1974, 1975, 1976, right in there. Had a lot of good shows. We saw Foghat like 3 times. I think Foghat was constantly touring. We saw them over and over again at the Fayetteville concerts, the Cumberland County concerts. The one I want to point out this time, I've actually got 2 albums from that concert. It was a double bill, and here's Chester here to see us. Hey, Chester. A double bill, Ozark Mountain Daredevils and Elvin Bishop, and these were albums from that period. Of course, Elvin Bishop from Butterfield's Blues Band previously, and he would sign with Capricorn, and he did 4 or 5, maybe more albums with Capricorn Records during that time frame. So double bill, very good show. Don't remember that much about it, but the one thing that stands out in my mind is a couple of things. A friend, Mary Catherine, and when we were teenagers, she was tall, slim, blonde-haired beauty. And between sets, I think Elvin Bishop played first, and before Ozark Mountain Daredevils came out, lights were up. We were milling around, and we were near the side of the stage, and Mary Catherine got the attention of Elvin Bishop. Now, I'm sure he was totally oblivious to me there. He was focused on her, I'm sure. But we engaged in a short conversation. I think she said she liked his necklace, had one of those choker necklaces on. And he said, well, what about the neck, or something like that, so being the rock star Elvin was. But good show. And the other thing about this concert is between acts, with the lights on, everybody milling around, waiting for the next set to start, some girl comes out with a chair and an acoustic guitar, sits down at the front of the stage, and starts playing. They don't turn the lights off. There's no introduction. She just sits down and starts playing. Nobody paid her any attention. I tried. I got up close to stage and listened to her and everything, because I said, man, I'm being disrespectful here. Listen to her. I don't know why they did it that way, but it was Emmylou Harris. I talked to somebody later recently, and they said they went to the same tour out in the Midwest or somewhere, and they said Emmylou Harris with full band was opening the shows then. So maybe her band was gone, and she was just traveling with the caravan of artists at that point, and just said, oh, give me a guitar, I'll go in there and play a little bit. Don't know. Then also my home is near a private Southern Baptist school called Campbell. It was Campbell College back then, Campbell University. And they have a pretty strict code of conduct that they expect. Well, somebody booked Jimmy Buffett. And this was about 1975. It was pre-Margaritaville. And they booked him into Turner Auditorium there that holds 1,000 people, maybe 1,500. And it was about half full. And we got there, a large group from my hometown, which is 4 miles from Campbell, and put on a great show. He was going to do 2 sets. This is the album. It was either this or Living and Dying in 3/4 Time that was out at this point. But he does his first set. Everybody loves it. And then the lights come on, and we okay, second set will be up in a little while. There's never a second set. They announced the show's over. Word was that the powers that be at Campbell heard the material we was playing, and they went backstage and said, look, you can't play any more songs that have subject matter related to drugs, alcohol, or sex. And Buffett said, that pretty much does my whole set. So they packed up and went home. But it was a good show. And the next one, I've got 2 albums here because I'm not sure which album. They were both out in 1979. I was fresh out of high school. I saw Willie Nelson and Family concert tour. And, of course, during that tour, he was touring with Leon Russell. Both these albums came out at the same time. This was in Greensboro Coliseum, a big arena. And I remember we worked our way down later in the show and got closer to the stage. But this was a really good concert. You can imagine Willie in prime form in the late 1970s. And, of course, Leon. How can you beat Leon? Added to the bill. And my last one, I think, was probably 1982 or so. I'll mention this one. The band became known as the Bluegrass Album Band. They released this album on Rounder Records, great record label. But you can see this is a superstar lineup. This was a super group, I guess, of bluegrass, you'd say. J.D. Crowe, banjo player, founder of the band New South. Tony Rice, one of the great guitar players ever. Dole Lawson, great singer and mandolin player. Todd Phillips also does a lot of jazz type music. And Bobby Hicks, fiddle player. Great fiddle player. The lineup changed. They did 3 or 4 albums for Rounder as the Bluegrass Album Band, this being the first. The lineup changed a little bit over the years, but very good. And there's Tony Rice sings lead on here, and they're doing your classic bluegrass, not new grass, not modern interpretations, but your classic bluegrass like Toy Heart and Blue Ridge Cabin Home, Model Church. It's just some really good bluegrass. Went to see them in Greensboro, not at the big Coliseum. There's a theater attached to the Greensboro Coliseum, more intimate setting, more appropriate for a band like this. You know, maybe holds a couple thousand people, maybe a little bit more. And it was a really good show. So those are 5 concerts with the albums that relate to those concerts. I'll try to post another video in a few days. Got some ideas on some things I might do. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, be kind to your neighbors, and everybody is your neighbor. Take care now.